A top is forming, but it might not be the top that I think a lot of people are looking for as of right now. In this case, there are many important things going across the broader market. So today's focus is going to be on Dixie, and then of course traditional markets, and then a little bit of Bitcoin as well. So there's a setup going on over in that realm of the world. And other than that, I want to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It's a nice little I almost said Sunday. It's not Sunday. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday. It's one of them days. Doesn't matter. Let's just get right into it, starting off right in over here. So we brought up this chart last week with Dixie. I think a lot of people have been aware that it has gone on 11 now, maybe even 12 straight weeks of green. What I think maybe was less spoken about, or at least something that I hope was uniquely brought up by myself, is that the past couple times that we have seen something like this, 12 weeks was actually the precipice of the next high. Now, things did typically continue on to the upside, in the more long term, to be fair, but it did produce a bit of a short-term pullback. And as you can see right here, Dixie is just dipping into this sort of major region that we do see coming in from the November 22 rejection, where Dixie really broke down from about that 107 level to, an ultimate low of about just under 100. So in this case, a rather significant region. I'm just going to highlight it right here with a nice little blue rectangle. And yes, things can spike up into this region a few more times, completely fine, obviously. But I would be looking for at least a medium-term top to be formed within this region right here before potentially going above there, maybe later on, maybe later this year, probably early next year if it is going to happen. Anyways, like I said, this really only happened a couple other times in Dixie's history. One of them was back on over here in 2014, where we did see 12 consecutive weeks of green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then a bit of a pullback and continuation. So, just because it is a pullback doesn't mean that it's going to be a reversal, but would imply that we're probably close to a pullback. Also of the similar nature, we can see over here from 96, that's 1996, by the way. Probably most people watching this weren't even born back then, to be fair. But in this case, we can see again, 1, 2, 3, yes, there was a slight doji right there, but, more or less unchanged. I mean, in fact, literally price was pretty much unchanged in that regard. Just a 1 cent, few cent difference right there. And we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We see upside and then a nice short-term top followed by continuation long-term. So, can this one continue long-term? Yeah, absolutely. However, in the more near term, probably looking for at least a short-term, medium-term top somewhere within this region right here, as we just went over. So that is also be combined with an analysis of the stochastic momentum that we see one on the daily over here, which is starting to turn down and create a little bit of divergence at that 107 spot 17 region for today's particular closure. So that one will actually start to see momentum turn down on the daily. But like I said, I wouldn't put it past it to try, a few more spikes to the upside. My main point here is that we're very, 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 very close to a top in the more medium term. And then of course we go to the weekly. I actually don't know if this is going to load right now because my internet just went ding dong, bing bong, and always annoying when that happens. But this one is, if memory serves me correctly, also in the extreme zone and getting ready to turn down. In fact, we might come to this chart a little bit later once it actually loads because this is rather annoying. Anyways, I want to get into traditional markets here. So for traditional market analysis, let's go over here. And actually, I'm going to pause this while this does load. Okay, it looks like I got some semblance of a chart here, and yes, we can see that the weekly for SPY futures has now come down to that 50% retracement level, also the green 55 exponential moving average, as you can see right here, which is the proverbial area that we are kind of looking for on this pullback. I thought that we might not get it based off of the end of September closure. However, looks like it did come to fruition, so I do like this area again for a potential on a, at least on a short-term low. Similar to Dixie, I don't necessarily think it's going to reverse exactly from this week right here. Can spend some time going sideways, can spend some time, grinding this area out, but ultimately, anywhere within this region in the low 42s, I do look at that as a nice bouncy bounce region. Going over here to the daily, I'm just curious, did I miss anything with that, or is it just going to take forever to load again? Perhaps so. And in that case, I'm going to bring you back to a different chart, actually. Actually, there is something that I do want to show you on the daily. It's at the 200 symbol, but we'll just wait for that one to load. In the meantime, we can go to this chart over here, which is one of the major charts that we were looking at in August. We used it to call a major low for traditional markets And if history is anything to go off of, for the past 20 years, or I guess over 20 years now, every pre-election year in August, we have seen extreme reads on the McClellan oscillator, this indicator right here, which is just a market breadth indicator. And that has always indicated in the past 20 years that the low was either in August or maybe a slightly lower low in like September, October, but ultimately not much. And what do you know? We are once again looking at slightly lower low right here. So it did actually take that out. Fair enough. That's completely fine in alignment with the data. But more importantly, we're seeing that the McClellan oscillator itself is still playing out this trendline regression here, which I will now draw in and highlight the last major times that we've actually seen this trend line hit. So the first one was coming off of the September lows in 2022. Again, wasn't like the exact low. Things did trade a little bit lower into the middle of October, but as you can see, the from when it fired off over here to the actual low, it was pretty much in alignment with that. It was very, very close to it. Then again, we have the same thing in March of 2023. This one, literally on that low right there. So, this one a little bit more perfect. And then the more recent one that we did see in August on this extreme run right here did precede that run before, S&P went all the way from like 43.50 to, that 45.50, 45.60-ish region. Now coming down to this area yet again. And the question is this time going to be different or, or does this go a little bit lower, maybe into the middle of October? Definitely possible, but ultimately, I'd kind of be saying the same thing as before. Probably looking at this area as, likely to grind it out and try at least for a bounce, going back over here, now that my chart is loaded, the daily, we can see that the daily 200 simple on S&P as well is coming in at about 42.30, 42.20-ish region. So yeah, I do think that there could be another spike a little bit lower. Yep, absolutely. However, again, I'm looking for this area to at least provide the impetus for a bounce, maybe even a reversal as well, if this relationship is going to hold true over here, or just somewhere around there. It doesn't need to be perfect, but just close enough is good enough in this case. Anyways, okay, so we've gone through that. Just referencing my notes over here. Is it time to get into some Bitcoin action? Some Bitcoin action? I guess we could do that. Let's see. So yesterday we were looking at the 4-hour HPDR range. And we were saying, hey, there are some signs of potential potential low forming here. One was that the HPDRO was playing out this trend line, which has called the last few lows. I mean, barely lows because Bitcoin's barely moved in the last couple months, but did call around the August lows and then again in the September lows. And then we see it yet again over here. Sorry. So, here's the thing. Again, it can trade a little bit lower, maybe even all the way down to 26,650. That's fine. But ultimately, we would not want to see it, or there would be a higher probability of a bounce before it closing below 26.6. Than not. I mean, just higher probability of a bounce before doing that. Yeah. We went through the statistics on that over here. That was, again, the setup with the 4-hour HPDR closing below that blue 50% of historic returns range lows, plus a decline in the moving average of volatility represented by the BBWP indicator right here. And again, that if we were to go ahead and backtest it, assuming that my data was saved over here, which it was, there was over the past 126 trades, which brings us all the way back to a history going back to 2018 for this particular setup. There was over 74.5% probability of a nice bounce before that just was before like breaking down. Of course, the average winning trade, if this one is going to play out in that fashion, was about 4.1%. Again, that would put Bitcoin from the actual entry on this particular one basically back around the current highs of this rally on October 2nd. And if it does lose, then, well, you could probably look at like a similar move to the downside, actually. In this case, what would define a loss? Well, yeah, I would really go as far to say like below even 26.7 on a closing basis. You're very likely going to see Bitcoin return back down to mid 25s. So that's kind of like the pivot point that I'd be looking at as of right now for a 4-hour time frame. For a daily time frame, as we went over yesterday, daily is still pivoted around that $27,000 region. As long as Bitcoin is above there on a daily closing basis, okay, fair enough. I would still just be looking at this as likely to form a low right here. But of course, like we went over, 4-hour versus daily, going to be a slightly different analysis right there. Just be aware of those different time frames and, where they close out, of course. It looks like I'm officially offline now. So great internet, great fucking internet here. Oh man, great internet, bro. Anyways, maybe that's a good place for me to be leaving things off. Yeah, Dixie in the process of putting in a top. Still could maybe take another week or two, definitely possible, but we're seeing more and more signs of that. In fact, I do believe, now that we have the weekly loaded over here, the weekly stochastic won't turn down just yet. 106, 64, 65 is a pivot, so it's got a little bit of space to go. But maybe a few more spikes, and then, yes, I'd be looking for a bit of reversal. Same thing, but opposite with SPY over here. Might spike a little bit further down here. Yes, that's completely fine. But I'd be looking for it to put in at least a bounce, maybe even a reversal as well, if the McClellan oscillator analysis still is holding true. And then Bitcoin, slightly higher probability, as we went over here, with a bounce before breaking down on a 4-hour time frame below about, I would even say 26.7, or a daily closure below 27 would also do it for me. Initiating downside back down, probably around the September lows, like mid $25,000 territory. Yeah, these numbers aren't super impressive as of right now, just because, again, we are dealing with one of the least volatile periods in Bitcoin's history, but it is what it is. And I think that's a good place for me to be leaving off on this particular video. I want to be wishing you the best as always. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully soon.